I'm James Hahn II,
And I'm Mark LaCour.
and you're listening to Oil and Gas This Week, brought to you by Bulwark. This is the show for busy oil pros who want to quickly keep their finger on the pulse of the industry. Episode number 84. Mr. Mark LaCour, I am fired up this morning. How you feeling?
I'm always fired up. You know that.
Yeah, you do. You're always turned up. You're always
Yeah.
turned up. I am excited this morning because
Why are you excited this morning?
I think you know, sir. I think you know what we did this week. Thanks to our amazing listeners, we passed 200,000 downloads, Mark LaCour.
Oh my God, 200,000 downloads. That's awesome.
200,000. Yeah, we're at 202, 203.4 by now, but oh my gosh. Thank you to everyone who continues to tune in and share this and spread the love, because man, we would not be here without y'all. Well, I would be if Mark would still be putting up with me, but I think I think the fact that it's become a revenue source for him keeps him around.
Yeah, it's we don't say this enough, but thank you to all our listeners out there, our old listeners and our new listeners. If it wasn't for you, the show would just be me and James talking to ourselves, and that would be kind of scary. So we couldn't do it without you, and we appreciate each and every one of you.
I'm hearing from so many people, Mark, so many people on LinkedIn, especially on LinkedIn, getting a lot of people hit me up from all over the globe. Actually, interestingly enough, just yesterday, shout out, forgive me, I'm forgetting your name off the top of my head, but we spoke yesterday with a young man probably younger than me or my age. Works for Enbridge in Battle Creek, which is funny because Battle Creek, Michigan is right next to Kalamazoo. And so I right away said, hey, I have a bunch of friends that hate you in Kalamazoo. And he said, yeah, well, you should tell them to get out on the river. And I said, well, we did a whole show on that. So that's just, I don't know, Mark. Man, this is amazing. This is amazing. 84 episodes, 200,000 downloads. Just incredible.
Great, good stuff.
Good stuff. What do you have here about the subsea service?
So this is something I've been meaning to bring up for a long time, and I never remember to do it on the show. I just happen to know that there's one subsea manufacturing company where a lot of their senior management listens to us on the golf course. Now, unfortunately, they didn't know how to load podcast, so they had to get a person that works for them to take each one of their phones and load the podcast on there. But now they're listening. So I don't want to say the name of the company, but y'all know who you are. It's it's only a handful of subsea manufacturers. And then to make it even more bizarre, I was having lunch with another subsea manufacturer, and I was actually having lunch with with their CTO. And he told me in his new hire package, he puts the link to the podcast. So anybody they hire,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
and he doesn't make them listen to it, but he goes, look, here's a really good, strong resource, especially young people right out of school, try to get their hands around the entire industry. Not just what the subsea manufacturer does. So I just thought that was really cool stuff. So, hats off to both those subsea manufacturers. If y'all have listened to the show long enough, I have a special place in my heart for y'all, because y'all do some of the coolest stuff in the world.
Definitely. Man, it's wow. So shout out to y'all on the golf course, drinking the Michelobes. Hopefully you get under par today. And then all the new hires. That's amazing. That is
Hey,
just
Jane.
I'm blown away.
Yeah, I think it's awesome too. And if your company encourages people to listen to our podcast, let us know. Let us know who you are. Let us know how you do it. If there's a way we can help you with that, we'd love to.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you sharing the show. Hey, James,
Yes.
I got a rumor.
What is this rumor? You've been teasing it. You wouldn't tell me. What is it?
Halliburton is hiring in South Texas.
Oh, okay. I'm
Uh,
leaning in. Tell me more.
Halliburton is hiring in South Texas.
Okay.
We've made the corner. If you know
Oh.
Halliburton's hiring for guys out in the field in South Texas, things are going to pick up. So this is not, Halliburton's, head HR person didn't call and tell me this. This came from one of my hundreds of sources I have out there. But I mean, I just think that's awesome news, right? If they're picking up people in the field, things are picking back up. So, I'll keep my finger on this. Like I said, this is a rumor. This is nothing official. But it comes from a very high trusted source.
Rumors. Rumors. Just between you and I, right, Mark?
You and I and our 200,000 listeners. So all of y'all, shh, keep it quiet.
Keep it quiet. All right. We have another We Stand Corrected, and we really stand corrected on this one. because it was Joshua Wade who won the Bulwark two-tone bass layer on episode 83 just last week, and he let us know that we actually linked him up with the wrong company.
Yeah, and so Joshua, thanks for reaching out and getting this story straight. He actually also talked to us about coming out to their digital oil field conference. So, appreciate for us you setting us straight and getting the facts out there. And then the other thing is, we appreciate you talking to us about coming out to the digital oil field conference. So, hats off to you, Joshua.
Yeah, thanks. So just to make the correction, they're not associated with Ascent Resources. They're Ascent Midstream Partners LLC. So that said, let's get into the stories because we got plenty to cover, and we're going to kick things off with a new oil baron, the unusual journey of China's newest oil baron.
Yeah, this is a long read, but it's actually really good. And so the short version of the story is a company out there called China Energy, CFC they call it, and Yi Jianming is the CEO of that company, and he's doing something really different. And what he's doing, he's going out and investing outside of China. So he's invested into a bank, he's invested into some shopping stuff and some buildings. And so he now owns a bank, but they're a small integrated company in China. And so it's really interesting to see what's going on because what he's doing is he's taken the capital that he has that he's built in China and going out investing outside of China, but investing in pieces that will help his business in China. And then he's a young guy, he's in his 20s, but he runs his company like they used to in the old days, right? So he hires a lot of military. They have an official Communist Party program. They have an official, top worker program, or I should say model worker. And so it's really interesting to see what he's doing. It's going to be interesting to see where this goes when this goes forward, like what's going to happen in history. I think what he's doing is he's positioned himself as China backs off on the communist-run businesses and allows free market to penetrate more and more. I think he's positioning himself and his company to start picking up those assets and start making bids because the nationalized oil company in China are sort of like some of the bigger companies in the world. They don't move very quickly. They're old. They're big old ships. And I think his competitive advantage is that he's just nimble, which is, this is actually kind of cool to see a 20-year-old stand up a company that's, he's not as big as Sinopec or CNOC, but the fact that he's even there, I think, is really cool.
So fact check on that. He's 39, but
I'm sorry.
but you're an old man, so so he probably looks that. But yeah, he's just a few years. But thanks for making me feel real good about myself because that means he's 3 years older than me. But he also owns the Czech. What are the top Czech soccer teams as well, or football for our friends across the globe?
Yeah, he's made a lot of investments in the Czech Republic, and the Czech Republic, they have that left wing kind of former communist style of government. So they probably work really well with China. So it's probably a great partnership with him.
It probably is, and we can only hope that that more capitalism means more liberty and freedom for all those people, and hopefully it keeps heading in that direction. Because I think I was talking to you just before about UCOS off the mic about UCOS and Rosneft and how that all came about, and how Putin he centralized basically a very communistic style government in his first 15 years of leading the country, and it seems that him and China are starting to see that government can't run things as efficiently as the marketplace.
No. And so they will continue to have a blend in their governments. But it's good to see. It's good for the people there. It's actually good for the world as a whole. So, good stuff.
Yeah, it's really good stuff. Hey, we haven't checked in Nigeria for a while, and so this came across the feed, and I wanted to see what's going on with Nigeria. How FG is pushing for in-country oil and gas project development.
Yeah, so this is the managing director of the Nigerian Port Authority. And I got to kind of tell you the backstory before we actually get into what she's doing. The backstory is, if you listen to the show for any length of time, or if you understand geopolitics, the backstory is Nigeria's government historically has added layers of costs to the entire oil and gas industry. A lot of times those costs are things that are unethical, bribes, money going to people's pockets that it shouldn't, whatever. And so the culture of Nigeria just kind of accepted that. And when oil was $100 a barrel, it was okay. They were making money. Most of their economy depends on the oil, on their oil reserves.
Yeah.
Well, now where oil is not $100 a barrel, all this waste, this financial waste, is dragging their economy down, dragging the industry down. And we've talked about before about how the president's cleaning a lot of that stuff up, and he's doing a really good job. I worry about his safety sometimes. He's doing that good a job.
Mm-hmm.
And this is an article about Haji Hadizi Bala Usam. I hope I got that even close. And she's basically the managing director of the Nigerian Ports Authority. And what historically the Port Authority in Nigeria has done is required all tankers that are either offloading or onloading product to use one of the government ports, which has government fees and corruption and all that stuff. And so they're trying to clean this up. And one of the ways they want to clean it up is they want to insource project development. So
How do you mean? How do you mean there?
so usually what happens is somebody goes and does a project in Nigeria. It's usually a partner, and it has to be a partner because local content laws with Nigeria. So let's say it's Chevron.
I have to stop you again so that people don't understand what local content laws are.
So the way the laws are written in Nigeria is that if you could do work there in oil and gas, that a part of that work has to be done by Nigerian people, and part of the materials you need has to be supplied or sourced by Nigerian companies. The idea behind that is to keep the money in the country, right? So that somebody can't come in and bring a bunch of U.S. workers and do all this work in Nigeria. Nigeria gets no benefit. That's local content. So what's happening is because of local content requirements, somebody like Chevron goes into Nigeria and does a joint venture. Typically, Chevron does all of the project management and all the engineering, all the pre-engineering, the feed stuff, because they have the expertise. Nigeria has spent a lot of money on education to start educating its people to bring them up to par, so they have the same quality engineers, project managers as the rest of the world, but they're not there yet. And so what's happening is they're wanting to insource project development. So basically, what they want to do is when Chevron comes to do a joint venture in Nigeria, the project management by law is now going to have to be done by Nigerians. The danger here is, especially offshore, the way you make money offshore is by hitting your project milestones. All the math is done up front. You know when you go do this project whether you're going to make money or not, and you know you're going to make money because you have parts of the project come online when they're supposed to. If those times slip, if it takes longer to implement this project, you're going to lose money. The danger here is the Nigerian people, the Nigerian project managers, don't have the 20 or 30 years of experience that like a project manager from Chevron does. And so then if it starts slipping, that joint venture is going to lose money. So that's the danger here. So I want to keep an eye on this because in some ways requiring it to be insourced or done totally within Nigeria is kind of going against what the president's trying to do, to clean everything up, to take government's hands out of everything, get rid of corruption. So we'll keep an eye on this story and see what happens.
Yeah, and I've heard Patrick Pister tell a couple of stories. Shout out to Patrick Pister over on Oil and Gas HSC podcast with you. But where local content laws and insourcing, while it sounds like a really great thing on paper, I can't remember if it was Mexico or Brazil or where it was. He was just telling some horror stories about, basically the government not being able to operate wells properly.
Yeah, and it's true.
I think it was actually it was Venezuela. Yeah.
Yeah. You think the ideal sounds good. The real way you should do this is a mixture of free market, and there should be some laws where the companies that are outside of Nigeria operating there have to do some knowledge transfer, like stand up schools, right? And have the Nigerian engineers work hand in hand with the Chevron engineers so they get that knowledge and that skill set. That's the better way to do that.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So this is really interesting to me because we I think lauded this type of activity on previous episodes when things were in a different place in terms of having acquiring gas, putting it in tankers and things like that. But this story paints an interesting picture, and I guess I'm just wanting let's hear an update on this side of this type of a bet. Oil bet gone wrong, rusting tankers and rigs clog up Asian market waters.
Yeah, we've talked about before all the mothballed rigs and tankers and FPSOs that just there's no money out there. So there's you don't want to keep them operating because you're bleeding cash. You need to go park them somewhere, shut them down, and bring them offline to save that money. And what's happening is a lot of them in the world are around Singapore. So just a good place to store this sort of stuff. So this is an article it's a good article because it has real numbers in it. One of the things I kind of don't like about this article, there's a guy in here named David Fife, and he's head of research at oil and gas trading company called Gunvor. And then he has a quote: as an industry, they were complacent. They thought because costs were high, prices will remain high. But then there was advent of shell. Since that period, there's realization that there's no scarcity of oil, which he's right. There's no scarcity of oil. We've been saying that for a while. But it wasn't that the industry got complacent. It's that it was booming. And so they were trying to make money as fast as they could. It was all about getting projects online as quickly as possible because oil was over $100 a barrel. And they knew it would come, it would crash. I mean, we go through these cycles. So it wasn't they got complacent. It was time to make money. And so they were making money hand over fist. Then we had an oversupply, the prices dropped, and now it's good drive efficiencies. But this huge landscape of parked tankers and rigs and everything is what happens in a low crude price market. It's not the first time this has happened. And one of the things that they don't talk about in this article is as the prices are creeping back up, and they are, companies are going to look at these stored rigs and go, is it worth the money and the time to bring this rig back up so we can actually rent out for day rates? Or are we better off building a newer, more efficient rig? And I think you can see more of that happen. I think this whole fleet that's been mothballed, I think you see a lot of it go to scrap. Just because as the price comes back, it's going to make fiscal sense to have a newer, higher horsepower, more efficient rig out there than to bring one out of mothballs.
So my question though is around the actual tankers, because I get the rig side of things from what we've been talking about recently, but I remember when storing rigs or storing, fuel in tankers, waiting for money to come back. I remember several shows where that was news to me, and it seemed like a good idea. Did prices stay too low for too long?
No, it's a logistics thing. It's still a good idea. There's still a lot of parked oil all over the world. But in order to do it effectively, that tanker has to be the right size. If it's too small, you don't have enough oil to make up the money when the prices come back. If it's too big, the cost of it sitting there is eaten into your eventual future margin. So it's a logistics thing. And a lot of these tankers are not the huge super tankers. These are smaller tankers that were making money hand over fist when oil's $150, $145 a barrel, and now they just don't work logistically.
Yep, understood. All right, let's come back closer to home. Ottawa's approval of massive BC energy project sets bar for future. Really interesting development here. What's going on?
This is a good article. I laughed. I laughed 5 or 6 times reading through this. So the government went through all the proper steps to build this large LNG project, right? And they're going to basically it's going to allow Canada to take all its gas, because Canada has a ton of gas like we do, liquefy it, ship it to the Asia Pacific. Now, right now, LNG prices are low, but we know they're coming back, and we think they're coming back probably the very end of 2017, beginning of 2018. So if you want to capture that market, you need to start building your plants now. Actually, you need to start building your plants a couple of years ago. And so the British government went through all these steps, actually more in depth than what would have happened in the U.S. They have 190 legally binding conditions for the operating company, meaning to help lessen the impact.
Did you just say 190?
Yeah, 190. Right. So they've done a great job of doing this. And this is going to create 4,500 jobs in Canada, not to mention the prosperity of being able to sell their gas to Asia Pacific. It's being done by Petronas, which is the Malaysian knock over there. So it's not even Canadian money. And then the environmentalists get involved.
Oh, no, tell me about it.
And they're talking about the horrible impact this is going to have on marine life, indigenous people, and greenhouse gases. And it's like, no. So first thing, it's not going to impact marine life at all. This whole project's on land. Indigenous people, they're the ones who will get the jobs, right? Because they're the ones who will be out there doing
4,500 of them, by the way.
Yeah. High output of greenhouse gases. If you don't do something with LNG, they're going to flare it. You want to talk about greenhouse gas if you just burn it. So this is...
And not to mention where it's headed in Asia.
Yeah, which predominantly uses coal, and it's switched from natural gas. So, I totally respect people's difference of opinion than mine, but base it on facts. There's not a fact in here from the environmental side. And the thing I'm slightly concerned about is that, Canada now has a bit of a leftist government in place, and I sure hope
a bit. Yeah. That's an understatement.
Yeah, well, I sure hope that this project been approved, but I sure hope they don't somehow get something going like what's going on with that Indian reservation, Dakota, with the pipeline, where the they have protests and everything else. It ends up shutting this project down because this project is good for Canada. It's good for the indigenous people. It's good for Asia Pacific. It's good for greenhouse gases.
It's good for the world, really.
Yeah. And like, there's no reason to not be in love with this happening. It's not even Canada's money. Another company's coming to spend the money to do it.
Yeah.
So, geez.
Yeah. Well, traditionalism, and I'll break that down in a future philosophy segment. All right. How are actual nuts and bolts bringing down the price of oil, Mark? What is going on with this article? Is there anything to it?
Oh, no, it's a great article. Remember a long time ago, we talked about the need for standardization to bring prices down?
Mm-hmm.
This is what this article's about. Um, they're talking about Statoil used the exact same well design and components, which that is standardization, to drill 3 reservoirs for the price of what they normally would have drilled 1, just because they standardize stuff. The same pipes, the same trees, the same casings for all 3 wells. And so this was, I knew this was going to happen. It's happening right now. It's going to continue to happen. It's going to work its way into our predictions for 2017, I'm pretty sure. And it's some of the biggest oil majors a while back, Saudi Aramco, BP, Statoil, Repsol actually got together to talk about standardization among themselves, even though they're competitors. So, this is just a normal where the industry goes. Like I said, these low crude price environment is going to force efficiencies, and this is one of the ways you drive efficiencies. And it's something that's been needed to happen forever. And so, good stuff.
More efficiencies and more profits when things return.
Yeah. So BP has a oil platform out in the Gulf called Mad Dog, and so they were able to cut their drilling prices in half.
Wow.
In half. Now, part of that is the service companies are starving, so they cut their day rates a lot. But part of that is also the standardization on trees and plets and manifolds and stuff. So good stuff that will continue to happen, and it'll just drive costs down even further, which then means that people can make money at $50-$55 a barrel.
Definitely. Update on Prudhoe Bay, or at least something we've talked about before, and interesting headline, and I don't know if it's a well-written article or not from your perspective. So Prudhoe plan approved on day, oil and gas division director resigned.
Yeah, that should tell you the whole story right
Well,
there.
I mean, I had a feeling, but I at least wanted to hear what you had to say about it.
Yeah, this is that big LNG project that we talked about in a previous show where I can't remember, was it Wood Group? They hired a third party that came in and said, this is the most.
That was Wood Mackenzie.
This is the number 1 most economically unviable project in the world right now.
Right.
I mean, they mince no words. And so what's happened is there's a joint venture. It's ConocoPhillips, BP, and who else? ConocoPhillips, BP, and somebody else is a joint venture. BP is the operator, so they're taking the lead here. I think it's Exxon. And so
it is Exxon.
Yeah, and so the state, and rightly so, the state is trying to make this project happen because, unfortunately for Alaska, they have expensive oil, and expensive oil really has no place in the market now and in the long-term future. However, if they can get an LNG plant, there's a long-term global need for LNG. The problem is the construction cost in Alaska, quite frankly, because it's Alaska. And so their state is trying really hard to get this project kicked off, and so they put together a letter, and it's basically saying, hey, we will support you on multiple state levels to help reduce your risk and lower your cost if you'll build this project. And this project's not going to happen. So the director, after the plan was approved, just resigned because it's not going to happen. I'm sure he's frustrated. He or she is frustrated as all get out on trying to make something happen that's not going to happen.
So it's like the girlfriend who just won't give up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Come back. Come on.
Yeah.
Man. Why are you returning my text messages?
Yeah, and really, if they would think through this, there's probably other ways they could take those resources and partner with BP and Exxon and ConocoPhillips and do something else that may not be as prosperous for the state as an LNG plant, but would at least be something that's realistic and would actually get done.
So as it stands today, you're calling that it won't happen, but they're still trying to get it to happen.
Yeah, it doesn't make fiscal sense. It may make fiscal sense later. And when I say later, I mean, we're talking about years away, depending on where that LNG global price stabilizes. We don't really have a global price in LNG right now because we don't have a way to transport around the world. Once we get the infrastructure built where we can transport, that's the same reason oil is the same price. A barrel of Brent is the same price in Houston as is in Tokyo, only because we can transport for almost nothing. Once we get that infrastructure built for LNG, you'll end up having a stable global LNG price, and whatever that price is, if it's above a certain point, this plant will make sense. If it's below a certain point, it won't make sense.
We'll continue to follow that and see how your prediction works out there. I'm guessing you're probably right. All right, we got a couple seeking alphas in a row, so you can love or hate them. Scoop Stack, changing Oklahoma dynamics. Throwing this one in here. Shout out to Shara, my man Shara out there, just getting into the oil industry actually, from California real estate, and he's doing he did a reentry, a few of them up in Oklahoma, and so just interesting to hear how things are developing there because it's sort of changing.
Yeah, so Scoop is the South Central Oklahoma oil province. This one's going to be a hard one. Stack is Sooner Trend, Anadarko Basin, Canadian Kingfisher counties. Boom.
Wow.
I don't know if I'm right about that.
Fact check us, please.
Yeah, somebody let me know if I got that right. But this is showing basically the changing dynamics of gas production in Oklahoma. As these operators get better and operate in their basins, and they really get it fine tuned, you're going to see certain basins produce more than others, and you see certain basins do it cheaper or more expensive than others. So you can see that needle move around Oklahoma. Which basins is making the most money? Which ones is it worth? Because natural gas prices are creeping up, James, which is good. So this is just a great story in Seeking Alpha about how those dynamics are changing in Oklahoma. And this is one of those things that if you're a multi-field operator, if you're a big operator, this is sort of stuff you're trying to think way ahead, so you can figure out where you can go buy properties cheap that you can produce inexpensively, and what properties do you want to stay away from. And as the experience of the people and as the technologies continue to influence us, you'll continue to see that change. It's dynamic. It will never be set.
It's really interesting. They've got some, obviously, usually some great graphs and charts and so forth. Scoop and Stack have had strong recent growth, while production in other Oklahoma regions, such as Arkoma, Woodford, and Western Oklahoma, have steadily declined. And if you look at if you go to the show notes and look at this graph, it sort of tells the story pretty quickly.
Yeah, and it's not just an Oklahoma thing, and it's not just a Texas thing. It's not just a U.S. thing. This is globally. As technologies and experience allow you to be more productive in certain fields, you will spend your activities, your money, your capital there. One of the things that's probably going to creep into our predictions for next year is that certain parts of the world are just going to be dead. Unfortunately, the North Sea is going to be there, and so you think that's a negative thing. Well, no. If you get ahead of this, if you start thinking about decommissioning, all that stuff needs to be decommissioned in the North Sea, and you figure out a way to decommission cheaper than somebody else, you're sitting on a gold mine opportunity. Just because the fields are declining doesn't mean you can't still make money there. You just have to think outside the box.
Yeah, or pivot as necessary.
Yeah.
All right, it's time, Mark. Midstream super majors. It's time to crown a king.
Yeah, that's an easy one. Enbridge.
Okay. Okay.
Just
Slam dunk.
Yeah. Enbridge just bought out Spectra Energy, and they just passed up Enterprise and Kinder Morgan. TransCanada is actually doing well. They're all doing okay. They're not dying. Some of them, Kinder Morgan had a stumble there for a while, but Enbridge is buying out Spectra Energy, just makes them the largest, North American pipeline company, and they're also fiscally doing really well. This is a good article in Seeking Alpha about the profits and the dividends. So this is an investor article of all the large pipeline companies. The pipeline companies, we've talked about this before, are in a strange place in history where their business model may be upset. If their business model is upset, the larger you are and the less debt you have, the less that is going to affect you. The smaller you are and the more debt you have, the more that's going to affect you.
What do you mean by the business model upset?
Yeah, so there's a couple of court cases being held right now where operators are trying to get out of their long-term contracts with pipeline companies. Historically, the way you build a pipeline, and you need a pipeline if oil is $20 a barrel, you still got to move it, right? And gas too. Historically, what they do is the pipeline companies go out and try to figure out where a constraint is. Like years ago, they figured out there's a constraint between Cushing, Oklahoma, and Houston, right? They call it the Cushing Coast. And so you had a bunch of pipeline companies go out there. TransCanada was one of them, and start building pipeline to relieve that constraint. But the way they do it is they go out and they get operators to sign these long-term contracts. So if you're Chevron, you sign a contract with Enbridge for 20 years to move your oil and your gas from point A to point B. You get enough of those contracts signed, you now fund your pipeline project but you're not using your money. You're using capital that you borrowed based upon those long-time contracts. You build the pipeline, you then transport the products in the pipeline according to your contracts, and you eventually pay that loan off that you borrowed, and then you start making money. The way the contracts are written, even if the operator goes out of business, they go bankrupt, the pipeline company gets first stab at getting its money.
Mm.
That's being challenged in court in two separate cases. If it's upheld and the courts allow the operating companies to get out of their contractual commitments and basically not pay the pipelines, it's going to create a domino effect. And it's, other people go to court, other people go to court, other people go to court, and the fundamental business model of pipeline will have to change. And unfortunately, as usual, the people that will pay that will be the consumer.
Mm-hmm. But to your point about Enbridge ruling the day here, together these four companies generate about $71 billion in revenue. The new Enbridge would account for about 40% of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's I can't remember what the number is, but if you look at the amount of pipeline that's just in North America, I think it would go around the world 10 times. I
Wow.
mean, we have a ton of pipe here in North America. It's great infrastructure. That's one of the advantages we have over other countries. They just don't have the infrastructure we have.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's go over to the ducks. Duck hunting again. Ducks Amok, Oil and Gas 360 examines dueling EIA and Bloomberg backlog data. This is quite an article.
Yeah, so this was a good read, but it's sort of like reading science fiction.
How do you mean?
Science fiction is entertaining, right? Well, if you like sci-fi, it's entertaining, it's fun, you get engrossed in it, but it's not based on reality. The problem with the ducks, the problem with trying to get a number on ducks is you can't. You just simply can't in this country get a solid number, even a statistical number. And so what they did, and this is Oil and Gas 360, is they analyzed Bloomberg's duck data and they compared it to the EIA. But it's like it's science fiction. Neither number is real, and so in this they go in detail about where Bloomberg, they think Bloomberg got it right, or where they think the EIA got it right, and it's like I said, good article. But if you're trying to get your hands on a solid number of how many ducks there are, you just can't. It's just that the data is not there for a bunch of reasons. One of which is each state reports things differently, requires the operators report things differently. The other thing is that the Energy Information Administration, the EIA, the data they get is what is required by federal law, which is not comprehensive, and it's also dated. So by the time they get it, it's 6 months or a year old. So like I said, good article if you want to read, but there's just you can't get your hand around on the ducks out there. You just can't.
Well, here's another point that I don't think a lot of people might realize is that a lot of it, not a lot of it, but when someone goes out and reports to as they need to the railroad commission in Texas or the federal and so forth, they report what they have to.
Right.
So explain that.
Yeah, it's because it's a cost. It's a cost to keep track of stuff, to pay somebody to go fill out these forms. So just like you and I, you do you do what's required, and you don't do any more of that. And so once again, you're right. The states require certain things, but what's required to be reported in Texas is different. What's required to be in Oklahoma, which is different. What's required in Louisiana, which is different in North Dakota. And so because you don't have clean data, there's just no way you can extrapolate how many ducks are out there. You just can't do it.
Yeah, you get a sort of intuitive guess at best.
Yeah, you could get a feel for the size, like it's between this number and this number. You absolutely can do that, but to actually get even a statistically close average, you just can't do it.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about North Dakota because this is a pretty cool story to round things out. North Dakota's world-class core library receives major upgrade.
Yeah. So if you don't know what a core is, when they go out and they drill, they take samples. They use a special bit, and they basically core the rock. And that rock is what you use from a geological point of view to figure out where you are, what reservoirs are there, what type of rock you're drilling through, what type of stimulation, all kinds of stuff. And North Dakota, a long time ago, figured out that they wanted a library of cores, especially for their students. And what they've done, James, is something I don't think anybody else has done. They literally have a core from almost every well ever drilled in North Dakota.
Wow.
And when I'm looking at this, and they just pumped a bunch of money and made it much bigger into it, which was really cool. But when I think of this, we've talked a lot about big data analytics, how that's going to be a major player in oil and gas industry. Here is the raw data sitting as rock cores in a library. somewhere in the future, somebody's going to be able to analyze all these cores and analyze that data. And you think you can produce oil and gas now in North Dakota. Once you analyze this and you're able to figure out, okay, at this depth, this type of lateral works better, this number of perforations work better, but based on the actual data pulled from the rock samples, holy cow. So this is going to be huge somewhere in the future. This could be extremely valuable to North Dakota and to the, all the geologists in the world that are working in the oil and gas industry that work in the same type of formations. So, good stuff. And this is going to really pay off in the future. And, hats off to the government in North Dakota for seeing this as something valuable and putting money and time and making sure they had it.
Well, what I'm wondering immediately, my digital brain is saying, is anybody working on digitizing all of this stuff?
I don't know, but you're right. That's the first step. It's sort of like Drilling Info has a whole warehouse of paper mud logs. I didn't even know there were paper mud logs.
They do.
Where they did it by hand, and they're in the process of digitalizing that. The values could be used once it's digitalized, and you can analyze that information. And it's a manual, expensive process, but the payoffs could be huge.
So
Same way here.
I know the backstory on that, which is it's fascinating because you have all of these retired engineers and geologists and geophysicists who have entire rooms full of things that their wives are screaming at them to get rid of for a really long time. And so Alan Gilmer went out there and said, "Hey guys, I know you probably need to get this out of your house before before you're out of your house. So why don't you just give it to us?"
Yeah,
It's really interesting.
Brilliant idea.
Yeah,
That data is invaluable.
absolutely. Okay. And then we have our weekly onion, and I pulled one from the archives here. Kim Jong-un named the Onion's sexiest man alive for 2012. And the hilarious thing about this is back in 2012, and I have a link to the NPR article, when they said that, everyone thought it was real. Everyone thought it was real. I said the Onion because it's actually the updated headline because the original headline just said Kim Jong-un named sexiest man alive for 2012. And if you actually look at the article, I think it was oh goodness, who was it? It was a couple pretty legit. Oh, the New York Times and People's Daily reported on it.
That's funny.
As fact. All right, Bulwark has a winner, Mr. LaCour.
Congratulations, Jamie Silva, human performance coach at CavU International. You have won the new fashion standard in the oil and gas industry, the Bulwark two-tone base layer. And James, you know what I found out?
Tell me.
It's now made its way across the pond to the Paris fashion models. So if you
was it at Fashion Week?
Yeah, if you want to be the epitome of fashion, you need to check this out. So, Jamie, your two-tone base layer will be shipped very soon out to you. If you're listening to the show and you want to copy Jamie and maybe walk into the Paris runways yourself, all you have to do is go to bulwark.com/podcast. That's bulwark.com/podcast. Put your information in, and we may pull your name as a lucky winner. And if you're a company that needs flame-resistant clothing, check out Bulwark. They're the largest manufacturer of FR clothing in the oil and gas industry. They know what they're doing.
I really love their tagline, delivering the quote perfect day. We leverage our military and energy sector experience to provide the best consulting service in the world for high hazard work environments. So, Jamie, also you need to check out the Oil and Gas HSE podcast because it sounds like a perfect fit.
Yeah, Jamie, and maybe you or somebody in your company would like to be interviewed on our HSE podcast. It does sound like a perfect. I bet you have a great story to tell.
Yeah, absolutely. So bulwark.com/podcast, register to win this amazing fashion accessory. It's bulwark.com/podcast. Events on deck. You can get Mark's monthly events email, which is where we get all of the events that we talk about every week on the show. You can go to triberocket.com/events and get this email sent straight to you. Even Nick, 6th Oil and Gas Symposium. Tell me about it.
Yeah, this is a great event. I'll be there. If you're going, hit me up on Twitter, which, by the way, if you're going to the King and Spalding Latin America Energy Forum tonight, I'll be there as well. I'm actually going to be there late. Sorry. Hit me up on Twitter as well. But this is a great, they get some industry experts and real thought leaders, and they talk about what's going to happen in the oil and gas industry in the future. And it's not academia. These are people actually run big businesses in oil and gas. And this is one of my must-attend events we go to every year. It's also free, so hurry up and sign up for it before they fill up. And it also includes breakfast, lunch, and a network reception. So you get fed, you get educated, and you get to network with your peers, and you don't have to pay anything. So go sign up.
AKA booze. So, free Malbec for Mark. Is that why it's the Mustatan event? No, I'm just joking. But on the Mustatan event side, we're going to be Mustatanning some events coming up. People taking us up on our offer for getting out there in the field and talking to their people. So thank you to everyone who's reaching out.
Yeah. If you're a trade association, a company, a conference, a school, if you got a drinking club, sales and marketing, oil and gas, whatever, reach out to James and I. We love to get on the road, come out and either speak or interact, or even maybe even do a live podcast, or maybe all three. So reach out to us, and we'll be happy to share the details.
Yeah, guns. Get some guns in there. I want to shoot some guns. I haven't shot a gun in a while. I need to get out there. All right. Our first Friday Q&A is just 1 week away, and we got some fantastic questions this week, but we are lagging a little bit. So at this point, we're going to have to really answer those questions if we don't get a handful more. So help us out, triberocket.com/QA. You can write it in. What do you have to say about the first Friday Q&A?
It's become our most popular show. So if you have anything you want to know about the industry, anything, reach out to us. Send us an audio note. James loves those things. If you want to know about marketing in oil and gas, I keep saying this, but James is a wealth of information around that. I mean, my business success is because of him. You can also ask those type of questions, which would be a little bit different than normal. But anything you want to know, reach out to us, and we'll see if we can answer it. And if we use your question on the air, you'll get a big shout out.
Big old shout out. And we've got to talk more about our prizes for best question and all these different things.
Yeah, we're working on some highly sought after trophy type materials for our best questions. People, your friends will be so jealous if you have one of these awards. We haven't got the details figured out yet, but it's coming.
Yeah, it's definitely coming. All right, triberocket.com/QA. All right, let's talk about reviews. triberocket.com/TW reviews takes you straight into the iTunes store where you can leave us a review. Shout out to everyone as well who has been giving us ratings, because we just crushed it on ratings this week. We got like 12 or something. So in iTunes, you can either leave a rating or a review. We appreciate both. We especially love the reviews. So here we go. Great tool to expand your knowledge of the oil and gas industry. 5 stars by ONG Fan. OGTW playing in the background makes driving through Houston traffic almost enjoyable. Really?
Yeah, the key there is almost.
Almost. Great show, and I always learn something new when I tune in. Thank you, ONG Fan. Great way to stay updated. 5 stars from Crude Petrol. I love having a weekly source of news summaries for all things oil and gas. James and Mark do a great job of explaining how activity in the industry will branch out and affect markets, economies, and people. It helps me to be able to engage further in conversations with friends and colleagues about what's going on now and in the future. Appreciate all the legwork you guys do to pull off the podcast and keep us guys informed and educated. Thank you, Crude Petrol. We do a fair amount of legwork, but it's because we have 200,000 downloads, and we know that y'all want to hear it. So, but even if we didn't have 200,000 downloads, I mean, this is very self-serving. Mark kept telling me I needed to learn about the industry, and certainly I am. All right, last one. Must listen if you're in or around oil and gas industry. 5 stars from One Nav. Very efficient way to keep pulse of the industry. There you go, tagline. Mark is very knowledgeable with high level of integrity. Mark, you've got integrity?
I pride myself in my integrity.
I'm also very, very known for my humility. He lays down things as they are. Keep it up, guys. We certainly will keep things
James,
rolling. Yes.
Remember in the beginning of the show, I talked about one of the subsea manufacturers that actually puts in its new hire packet our podcast?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's who left this review.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So thanks. If I'm right about that, Nav, thanks for leaving us a review.
Awesome. All right. The LinkedIn group, you can go to LinkedIn and search OGGN and find Oil and Gas Global Network LinkedIn group, or you can go to triberocket.com/LinkedIn. You have anything to say about that?
Go join the LinkedIn group. There's really cool stuff happening, and you find out first if you join the LinkedIn group.
Yes. And also, that's where we put all the show as far as the links. But if you're just driving and you want to see the links yourself, you can go to triberocket.com/TW. So this week, that's because our show used to be called This Week in Oil and Gas. But for SEO purposes, we dominate with oil and gas this week. So TW84. And
Yeah, if you're driving, you probably better not go to this page. Wait till you're not driving, right?
but you can
Um,
only remember it, right?
yeah, but if you want to see any of the stuff that we do, James spends a lot of time putting everything in nice clickable formats, basically a blog post. Our contact information is there, our Twitter handles are there, all the links to all the articles we talked about, anything free that we're giving away is there. So it just makes it really easy for you to continue to benefit from the show. Just go straight to the show notes. It just makes things easier for you, and it makes things easier for us as too.
Yeah, and if you sign up for my email list, I'll send it straight to your email inbox. All right, triberocket.com/share-li. We'll take you to LinkedIn to share the show. We love when you do that. /share TW takes you to Twitter, and /share FB goes to Facebook. Mark, no pauses, no. Like this is actually a live show.
Yeah, which means you may not have pushed record.
45. Okay. Thank you. Oh, that was scary. Okay, before we screw up, are you ready to go?
Yeah, so folks, do great work, pay it forward, and we will see you next time.
Go find some grease, guys. Don't think too much on it.
Oh no, I mean, what can we do?
Yeah, that was like a yoga kind of going into it. What do I got? What happened this week?
Just busy freaking week.
Yeah.
Uh,
Nobody said anything stupid to you?
People say stupid shit to me all the time.